If you're ready to stop building someone else's dream and start creating your own, join our free community, the Self-Directed Network, at acesmanagementinc.com/school. It's where people leaving their W-2s come together to build freedom, purpose, and momentum toward what's next. Welcome to Life After W-2. I'm your host, John Chan. After 17 years in corporate America, I made the leap to build my own business. It was messier than I thought it would be, but also full of valuable lessons I didn't know I needed. This show is about sharing shifts in mindset, pivots in strategy, and personal changes that come with pursuing financial freedom. You're not alone in this. We're all figuring it out, one step at a time. Welcome to Life After W-2. In today's episode, we sit down with Mike Henzgen, who made the leap from a steady W-2 job in accounting to building a business on his own terms. Mike opens up about the real challenges behind that decision, from exploring real estate to learning how to manage himself and his offshore team. His story is a reminder that comfort can be the biggest obstacle to growth, and that the best time to take the leap might have been yesterday. Let's get into it. Mike, so glad to have you.
Thanks, John. Yeah, good to be here.
Yeah, so we kind of we got into this a little bit before we started recording, but we both have a similar background in accounting. So tell us a little bit about what your W-2 life was like.
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in Los Angeles. I went to school down in San Diego. I got my accounting degree there. Why did I get my accounting degree? I'm not sure. I was good with numbers, but I don't know. Other than the fact that I knew you could always have a good job doing accounting, I'm not quite sure what possessed me to do accounting for any reason other than that. And from there, actually got an audit job down in San Diego about halfway through university, and commuting to the office every day while being in school and just kind of finding a way to make money, living down in San Diego and all that fun stuff. And then actually, so I graduated during COVID, and so the whole company had pivoted remote, and I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do post internship. I just knew I needed a job, those first couple summers. And, when the company whole pivoted fully remote, I thought, okay, well, that's interesting. I save a lot of time commuting now, you know, am pretty comfortable with my workload, being paid well. Maybe I just stay here, take a full-time job, and then kind of explore my options. So I think always in the back of my head, I think business ownership was there. Probably from a young age, I was finding clever ways to make money, and uh, I don't think I ever was really meant for a W-2, but I just got kind of lucky, frankly, with the job that I'd first landed and kind of the opportunities that opened up for me, especially being able to work remote, save all that time, and basically have a bunch of free time to explore other opportunities, meet new people, learn about what other people were doing, and kind of carve my own path on, making money outside of a W-2.
That's really interesting. And because I fell into accounting the same way. Like, I here you get a stable job, stable career. So why not? Not like I really enjoyed accounting or anything. I think most people that get into accounting probably don't enjoy it. Um, I like what you did here, where you were given this opportunity where you no longer have to commute. So then that typically saves you at least 2 hours,
Oh
a
yeah.
day. And instead of relaxing and just kind of enjoying yourself, you were looking for the next things. As you went down that path, like, what did you discover?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So I was kind of open to anything at that point. I think the first kind of eye-opening, and I'm sure a lot of people go down this rabbit hole, but the first kind of eye-opening rabbit hole I went down to was real estate investing, and I meet a lot of people who are successful real estate investors. I have a good family friend of mine and kind of a mentor of mine as well who was really, really successful in real estate investing and started doing that from a very, very young age. Like, I think he used college loans to buy properties in Los Angeles, like back when it was still developing. And anyway, he was very successful. So kind of going down that rabbit hole, I met a lot of really interesting people in that space. And it kind of opened my mind to like, oh, wow, all these people, they're working very, very hard. Don't get me wrong. I think passive income kind of, it's not always passive, they're still working very hard. Right. But I was like,
Yeah.
wow, they've, built this portfolio. They're building something that constantly builds and grows upon itself and putting themselves in these financial situations where they're, having free time to spend with their kids and travel and do all these interesting things. And, their wealth continues to build while they're doing that. So that was kind of like the first probably eye-opening model to like outside of the W-2 and just understanding the different ways that people make money. And, I think all the wealthiest people that I knew growing up, none of them were necessarily wealthy because of the degree that they got and the corporate ladder that they went up. And I think that was something that was always apparent to me.
Yeah, that's like a huge misconception that I held on to for a long time too, where I thought, well, if I get in a company and I work my way up the corporate ladder, I'll get to a point where my salary will be so high that I can go out and then invest or build it on the side, right? But it never occurred to me that maybe you should just try to go and build it on your own instead of trying to, work your way up the corporate ladder. So you saw that at a pretty early age, and it's funny because real estate is the way that I went too. So then when I mean, and it's not easy. It's well, I mean, it's simple, but it's not easy, and there's a lot of risk involved. Like, what did you start doing then? Did you make the decision to get into real estate?
I did attempt it for a while. So I partnered with a friend of mine, and we were sending out letters, we did all this stuff. And this is kind of when the whole COVID housing market exploded. And,
Mhm.
we were sending out letters, and we ended up visiting some properties that were disasters, and I'm glad we didn't buy them. But we never ended up pulling the trigger on anything, and prices pretty much doubled in a lot of the areas we were looking at. We just said, hey, we're both young. Let's put a pause on this. And yeah, it's hard for me not to say I gave up, but I didn't necessarily give up. I think real estate's still out there, but I wanted to put my efforts elsewhere. I was uncertain about the market, and it was new to me. And I was thinking, yeah, with all of these price changes, I'm not, not so certain I want to get into this. So that's kind of the first route that I went. Um, and then I was really just always looking for new opportunities, pretty much inviting anyone who I saw as successful in my eyes out to coffee. Hey, can I take you out to coffee? I'd love to learn, what did you do? You know, basically do what you're doing with me right now. Let me learn about how your college, what you graduated with, what route you went, how you got to where you are today, and just kind of soaking up that information and really just continuing to learn. I think it's the fastest way to expedite your progress is to learn from the people who are already there, figure out what they did, what mistakes that they made that they would tell you not to make. As a side note, I'm the youngest of four. I have three older siblings, so I got to watch a lot of their mistakes and things that they would have done differently, and that certainly expedited. One of my brothers in particular, I joke with him that I owe him like 5 years of life. But yeah, I think that was a key piece, just being willing to go listen to these folks who had made it to essentially where I want to make it one day, and understanding how they got there, and maybe some things that I can do differently in my life at this age to make sure that I can get there at the same time, if not faster.
Well, I think in what you just said, there's like two really important things. One, like you looked into real estate and you didn't just study it. You actually went out and you tried it. And just because you didn't continue with it doesn't mean that you failed or you quit. You just realize that that's not what you want to do. What you weren't That's not what was for you at the time, and that's like completely okay. And then another thing is when I always talk to people, because again, I'm heavy in the real estate industry and investing and all that,
Great.
and a lot of people will come in and say, like, I'm new, I don't really know what to do. Well, figure out what it is you want to do. And even if you're not like 100% sure, go out and find someone who's doing, let's just say you decide you want to wholesale in LA for whatever reason,
Hmm.
right? You go out and you find someone who's doing it in the market, you're doing it successfully, and then, bring them value. And so I think that was, I mean, really smart moves on your point, and the fact that you just even started. So then you start meeting all these different people. What do you find out?
That's a good question. I think it goes back to the first point, and you find out that a lot of these people just took a risk and they went out on their own, and they said, pretty much, I'm done with the W-2 lifestyle. And I think if I put in this same amount of effort, and a lot of them are really hardworking folks, and I think a lot of people in their W-2 jobs are hardworking folks. There's plenty of W-2 workers that are working 55, 60 hours a week. Um, and it's just kind of that. I think it was just eye opening to me that, like, okay, well, if I can take those 55, 60 hours a week at this age when I, don't have any kids, I don't have, it's like, this is the best
Mhm.
time to do it. It's kind of now or never is pretty much what I came to the conclusion of. And, I can sacrifice some nights at the bars and, going out with my friends and kind of the classic, activities in your 20s, and just really put in some effort and find the right path for myself and really set myself up, set my future family up, my future wife, all these things. Like, I can just kind of get so far ahead and then still be, active in my 30s and 40s, and, fit and able to do all the things that I love to do, and not kind of wait until I retire to travel and do all that stuff. So I think it was
Mhm.
just more than anything, I learned that it's the best time for me to take a risk, the best time for me to go out and fail. I was totally okay with going out there and failing, but finding the right thing that was going to work for me and just going all in.
So then you while you're meeting all these people, are you still working at the same time?
Oh yeah, yeah. Never left
Mm.
my V2, and I bring my laptop with me everywhere we go. I'd
Uh-huh.
go get an Airbnb in Hawaii for a month and work from there, or I'd go, And
Mhm.
I want to preface that my W2 experience was actually excellent. Like I loved my boss. I still talk to him to this day. My old boss. Yeah, I was texting him last week. I loved one of my old coworkers. I haven't, I see him like once a year, and I call him on the phone every month or so. Like it was such a great experience. That was most of the reason why I wanted to stay there. But I just knew it wasn't for me. I remember back to the accounting note. As a team, we took one of those big Myers Briggs personality
Mhm.
exams, and all the accountants were over here, and Mike was over here. I was so far away from this typical accountant, and kind of helped me realize that maybe I don't in a corner, kind of crunching numbers or doing audit work papers. I probably belong doing more stuff like this. And I started to pay attention to what kind of you can kind of pay attention when certain activities either like bring you energy or take away energy from you. And I noticed that conversations like those coffees I was having with, my more successful elders were bringing me like we'd have a 3 hour conversation and I'd leave way more energized than I showed up, as
Mhm.
opposed to maybe sitting around doing some audit work papers. After a couple hours, I'd feel pretty drained, right? So yeah, to answer your question, that's kind of how I discovered it.
Okay, so then at what point do you finally say, "All right, I'm gonna do this. I'm going to leave my W-2 and start off building my own business?"
Yeah, so good questions. Amongst all those conversations, I got connected with a friend of my oldest brother's actually, and I was speaking with him, and ultimately he had the idea for the company that we run today. And so he said, "Hey, I worked with this really talented talent pool over in Sri Lanka. They're really excellent accountants. You know, we'd like to find a way to basically allow firms and private companies who don't really have the resources to establish offshore offices and kind of tap into that talent pool, still access those folks, get the cost benefits. You left accounting, I left accounting. There's a lot of folks that left accounting, and there's a gap basically where these strong but not competitive when it comes to competing with the Googles of the world for talent. They just can't find good accountants or maybe anyone at all to work in their accounting roles, and there's a gap we can plug here. And he had a little bit more going on, and I said, "Hey, I will drop everything except for I'll kind of work part-time with my W2. We'll double dip for a little bit, and I'll just grind for you, and let me see if I can help you grow this thing," basically. And I pretty much just offered to work for free since it was his idea. And so I did double dip for a long time, and I for longer than I should have, actually. Looking back, it was always like, should I just make the jump? Should I just make the like cut the clean transition and just make it happen, make it happen? And I didn't. It took me a long time to finally do it, and then I never looked back after I did. And being able to dedicate my mind to just one thing certainly made a difference, and I think we would have been further ahead than we are right now, and we're doing great. But if I had made that transition earlier, I think we would be even further ahead.
What's pretty funny is that, I mean, you have this opportunity and it's just sitting there that you're working and it's right there in front of you, but still, I mean, what caused the hesitation to dump the W-2?
Just yeah, probably just the uncertainty of it. It's a scary jump, right? You're like, okay, I'm
Mhm.
giving up this guaranteed income for basically betting on myself, right? I was pretty confident that we could do it, and that's what's kind of hard for me to answer. Is like I think I knew deep down it would be successful, and I could confidently bet on myself. But at the same time, it was scary to make that jump. To like back to, I think it was such a positive W2 experience. And I had a great relationship with my former boss, and I was very transparent with him from the very beginning too. Like, hey, I would prefer if you were my last boss, is what I told him, and he was cool with that. I don't think he necessarily believed me that that I would jump out and go on my own one day, but he's super supportive. He's been awesome throughout that whole process. But yeah, it was just difficult to. It's a scary jump, despite being young and not having many, being able to take risks. Yeah, I guess I just didn't have a huge risk appetite.
Yeah, I mean, as accountants, we rarely do, right?
That's a good point. Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah. Okay, so then you finally, I mean, you put in a ton of work. You get this opportunity, and I mean, sitting there in front of you. I mean, as an outsider's view, that looks like one of the smoothest transitions from going from corporate America to going off on your own. What is that first 6 months after you leave like?
Yeah, I got really lucky, and because it was so smooth, right? I had lined it up. We had closed a couple big deals. We were working with some big companies that, we had some traction, and it was just a nice, comfortable, like, okay, now it's time, But those first 6 months, it was actually kind of refreshing more than anything. Yeah, it's stressful, but it's like a different kind of stress. It's like a good stress. I don't know. Like, you
Mhm.
just wake up every day just kind of fired up, ready to attack the day, knowing that like every single minute that I put in has a return, Like, I'm not doing like there's no such thing as busy work or like boring work once you're kind of working for yourself, right? It's just, there's well, if you shouldn't be, at least, it's like
Mhm.
you should only be doing value producing activities for your business. Things are going to grow your business. And I
Yeah.
think your like your skill sets just grow so quickly too.
Mm.
For example, you're doing some sales outreach and someone goes, "Oh, hey, can I see your one pager?" And you're like, yeah, of course. You're like, I don't have a one pager.
We'll
Okay, I
figure it
guess I
out.
guess I'm gonna go put on my marketing hat. Now I'm the CMO, and I better go on Canva. And what's Canva? Okay, how do I make a one pager? Okay, what's a good looking one page? It's like
Yeah.
you have to do this stuff quickly too. It's like you don't have time because he wants the one pager an hour ago, and you haven't have given him the one pager yet. It's like it just kind of fosters this like hyper efficiency, and then just like have to develop all of those skills. You can't just be like one faceted. You have to know how to do sales. You have to know how to do marketing. You have to know the actual product. You have to know the operations. You have to know how things are going to run smoothly. It's just end up just having to wear all these hats that I feel like even in the last year or so, like I don't know, I feel like the skills I've developed in the last year or so, like I could go start another business tomorrow and know exactly how to make it go 3 times faster than the process that it took for me to get where I am today.
Yeah, I mean, you made really good points. The first one was when I was working for someone else, it was hard for me to wake up before 8 o'clock.
Oh
But
yeah.
then when you start running your own business and you see the clock is 5 o'clock in the morning, like you just jump out of bed ready to get going. Which is such a weird thing, right? Because I guess it is you're building your own everything that you're doing is working towards building your own dream and the lifestyle that you want. And then the second thing is, yeah, the one pager. I mean, I'm a little bit older, so social media to me always had this kind of like stigma, and so now I'm trying to get over it and then posting videos of myself talking and then posting it to, all the different platforms and making sure everything's done right. It's it's one of those things where I never thought that I would be doing this, but when you are in this world, like you have no choice, you just got to go and figure it out.
Yeah, it's so funny you say that because I started doing video content, I think 2 weeks ago, putting my face, and it's probably I couldn't agree with you more. Like, I hate the idea of, my buddies from high school being like, "What's
Mm.
Mike's face doing on social media?" It's like,
Yeah, like
but
who's this guy? What's he trying to do?
you just do the things that need to get done. You know that, video content is more highly engaging these days. And,
Mm.
that one video might be what catches a big client for you. It's like, so you just, at the end of the day, you kind of have to swallow your pride and just do the things that you need to do. And to your point, yeah, I was never considered myself an early riser, but I realized I just didn't have anything worth rising early for. Right. So now it's like, oh, shoot, 7 o'clock already. Why aren't I working already?
Yeah,
And
get
yeah,
to
the
it.
whole 9 to 5 kind of just like doesn't exist anymore. It's just I'm working whenever I can, and because I have an idea and so there's an opportunity to work or I got an email. It's just part of my day to day now, no matter what time it is.
Yeah, I mean, my mentor, he had this video and where it says, "I gave up my 9 to 5 to work 24/7."
Honestly, and half my staff is in Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
You know, Early mornings and late nights, I'm always messaging them and talking to them, and so yeah, it's really from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed. There's work activities going on.
Yeah. So are they, because I have an offshore, she's, heading out, but as in, leaving me in a little bit, but she's on the other side of the world. So then, but she wakes up and she is on our time. Are your offshore employees working their daytime or US daytime?
Yeah, they're mostly working US hours, which is great. If
Yeah.
I'm contacting them about operational stuff, I'll try to catch them on their own time zone. I don't want them to have to respond to me at 12 or 1 in the
Mhm.
morning.
Yeah.
So, it's just depending on what it is, but I want them to be kind of focused and dedicated to their client when they're on their actual work hours.
Yeah, which is, I mean, these are human beings and they're working hard. And I mean, a lot of them are really nice and you always try to look out for them, but it's hard with the time difference.
It could definitely be hard with the time difference. So we found a good system that works well with our clients. And as you know, with accounting tasks, they can pretty much be done around the clock, but
Yeah.
we think it's important that just for getting up to speed, we think it's important to have a couple hours of overlap every single day,
Yeah.
huddle on certain things and just be able to make sure that things don't take 3 days when they should only take one is basically the the model. And yeah, I think they're awesome. They've been wonderful, and I think that's been one of the more actually that was a pretty defining moment in building this company was actually visiting over in Sri Lanka. That
But
was
you went out there.
yeah, I went out there June, not this past June, but the one prior. And our team was still pretty small at that point. But just going out there, meeting these folks that, I've been working with for a while and they were working for our clients and they were doing a great job. But just being able to go out there and pretty much show them that we cared about them, that we value their efforts. We think they're super valuable for our company and we like them as people. They're
Yeah.
people, we're people. And just because we're across the world, genuinely across the world. I mean, I think it took me 23 hours of flying to get there. But uh, yeah, that was a pretty defining moment of just like breaking down those walls and then really believing in what we were selling at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, you went in June. You couldn't go on a hotter month.
It's like almost right on the equator, so it's pretty
Yeah.
much always nice there.
Is there?
It's right off
Oh
the tip
yeah.
of India there, yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
But I honestly can't wait to go back to that place was beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very cool. Glad that you got to meet them in person, see them. I think it goes a long way too, just for morale and everything.
Definitely, definitely. We have a like one of our partners is actually on site over there, which helps
Ah,
tremendously, and that's why
mm.
we're in Sri Lanka specifically. But they always love when we get to come over, and we always do the most fun stuff when one of us comes over, right? uh, but but yeah, I look forward to it. And each time I visit, it's just going to be team goes from this to this to this, and it's wonderful to see with your physical eyes as opposed to just looking at the Slack channel.
Yeah. So I mean, you have a smooth transition, or it sounds like a pretty smooth transition. And I'm actually really jealous that you have a pretty smooth transition. Uh, so what's like a mindset shift that you've had to make?
That's a good question. I think let's see. I think it's just been like setting expectations for myself and just kind of understanding that everything that I'm doing is kind of working towards this. Just kind of like the mindset shift of aligning exactly what I want to do and where I want to go with like my day-to-day tasks. So, breaking out every single hour into every single day of like, what am I going to do this hour? And then not just like being a little task rabbit, but like, okay, does that actually get me? If this is the day goal, does that actually get me to the goal for this week? Do these goals for this week actually get me for the goals of the month? Do these goals for the month actually get me to the goals for the year? Does this work towards the 5 year plan? Just like really breaking it down and just having to be kind of my own warden. You're kind of just your own boss at the end of the day. It's just like you really have to manage yourself. Cause I mean, with all the freedom that leaving your W-2 offers, it also comes with a ton of responsibility, right? Like just because I could go fly back to California and surf all morning and then catch a golf round in the afternoon, like doesn't mean I should, right? It's like
Right.
it's like so you end up it's that mindset shift where you end up, you know, working more like we discussed, but just kind of having to police yourself. I mean, I sit in my house alone all day. There's no one making me do all this work. I just have to be my own manager and set these tasks and make sure that I'm hitting all of my daily goals and that those are feeding into all of my long-term goals.
Yeah, I like that you break out your day into hours and like you have these weekly goals. So, are you familiar with rocket fuel and visionary versus integrator?
I'm not, no.
Okay, so then like visionary is the one that has the big vision, as looks at the big picture, can see what's possible and really, drives like I think Steve Jobs would be a good
Okay.
visionary. And then the integrator is the one that actually makes it happen and says, okay, well, these are all the ways that we can execute this vision. And so I'm more of a visionary. So I've always heard that you're supposed to break out your day into hours to then, meet a weekly goal. But for me to sit down and actually do it is extremely challenging. So to hear that you're able to do it, like it's amazing. So I didn't know if it was because either I'm just I don't know, it drains me to just sit there and do that. So I was just curious to see if you're like a visionary integrator.
I think that does resonate with me a little bit. I have to do it every single night before I go to bed. I have to make the schedule for the next day. If I don't do it, then the quality of my next day is not usually up to my standard. So I don't like doing it. And it feels like the biggest waste of, 15, 20 minutes to sit down. And it's literally just a Google sheet. It's just like boom, boom, boom with a little checkbox next to it. but I just know that it makes such a difference that I've kind of had to just suffer through it.
Yeah, you know what? You're inspiring me to go and do that because right now I just have like a reminder saying like these are the tasks I need to do, but I don't like break it out hour by hour. But I mean, a lot of it has to do with, and I'm not making excuses, but a lot of it has to do with I have like two young children, and then like things get chaotic.
Oh, for
Like
sure.
right before we started recording, I had to go talk to my oldest daughter to just try to calm her down, right? So I guess got to figure out a way to get it maybe for right now the test. I'm just kind of like talking through my own issues, but yeah, I
Well,
think. But I like that you do that. That's amazing.
yeah, I'm sure having the kids makes a certain level of unpredictability in your schedule. So I have that working for me right now. But yeah, I've spent some time, with my two oldest siblings. They each have two kids. One of them's
Hmm.
about to have a third, and so one of them runs her own business. Actually, so three of the four of us run our own businesses now, which is awesome.
Yeah,
But I've seen how their schedule can get flipped upside down in a second. And so it's another thing where it's like, okay, I don't have kids right now. I, capitalize on this free time while I can. As much as I'd love to go do the fun things I like to do, I'm
yeah,
not going to have many free evenings from 5 to 7 p.m. It's like, I
yeah.
better capitalize on this.
Yeah, man, talking to you reminds me of this meme where it says, like, there's this guy, he's like kind of crying, and he says, thinking about the real estate you should have bought in third grade instead of like messing around.
I did see that meme recently, and I made that joke. I was like, what was I doing in 2008 when I was in, fifth grade? Why didn't I buy some real estate? Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I've enjoyed hearing your story. Just I like to always ask all of my guests. So knowing what you know now, what's some advice that you'd give to yourself when you're still at your W-2?
Definitely would have done it earlier. I think I touched on that. Just don't be afraid to kind of jump. I mean, I touched on it earlier, like, okay, I knew I was young. I knew like, even if I didn't necessarily have a big risk appetite, the consequences for failing were so minimal. I, still always had my family and friends to rely on. Like, I could have gone flat broke and I would have been totally fine, right? I wouldn't have been on the streets. So I would have just told myself to do it earlier. And just because my B2 was so comfortable and I really liked my coworkers and my old boss, that's what kind of kept me going. And I think I felt like guilty leaving it behind. Like, I had this great opportunity and, this great B2 and such a great experience. And, so many people would want this job that I have. And so I think there was like a certain element of guilt that of like, I don't want this, But yeah, looking back, I would have probably made the transition 6 months to a year earlier.
Yeah, it's amazing. Sometimes like, we have everything that we need, and it's not as failure isn't as bad as we think it's gonna be. I mean, for me, a lot. I think it felt like maybe it was more of a pride thing if I can't get this to work and I have to go back to W-2, but there's nothing wrong with that.
That was a big fear too. My old boss was like, "Hey, if you ever need to come back, we'll have you back." And I was like, "I
Yeah.
appreciate that, but burn that bridge for me." It's like,
I hope I never have to ask you for a job
yeah,
again.
like that'd be a really hard day for me if I called you up and I said I needed it back.
Yeah. Well, Mike, it was a pleasure hearing your story. So how can you help people and how can people reach out to you?
Yeah, good question. I'm on LinkedIn way more than I'd like to be, but as we discussed, it's a necessary evil. But that's always an easy place to reach me. I have all my contact information on there as well. And at the end of the day, yeah, we're just looking to help CFOs, controllers of private, middle market and lower middle market companies, and help them get the accounting support that they need. And then, small firms as well, whether it's a small bookkeeping firm or a mid-sized CPA or audit firm, they often need that staff help as well. And often can't compete with a lot of the salaries that are kind of, I guess, the market salaries that are in today's world, right? So yeah, we're just on a mission to help, and not everyone is interested in that offshore route, and that's totally fine. But we found some wonderful staff with wonderful personalities, wonderful backgrounds and skill sets, and we just love to see them thrive and excel in those opportunities with U.S. companies. It's really done wonders for their career, and it's nice to see how grateful they are to be in some of those roles.
Amazing. Yeah. We'll make sure to have your LinkedIn in the description just to make life easier for everyone.
Yeah,
And Mike, again, thank you for coming on.
thanks, John. Yeah, it was a pleasure.
That's it for today's episode of Life After W2. I'm John Chan, and I appreciate you tuning in. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend who's ready to take control of their financial future. And if you're curious about how self-directed retirement accounts can unlock opportunities in alternative investing, grab our free guide. It's packed with insights to help you get started. The link's in the description. See you next time.